Welcome to this week's episode of Around Kansas. I'm Michelle Martin, your co host. Deb is actually on important Santa Fe Trail business in Oklahoma City, and we hope she's having a fantastic time. She's getting ready for a fantastic reception at the National Cowboy Hall of Fame and Western Heritage Museum. That it coincides with the Santa Fe Trail exhibit. So she's getting ready for a grand reception. So save us a good drink or two, Deb. But today on our history segment, I want to talk about the Santa Fe Trail. As you see behind me here, the Santa Fe Trail wagon ruts and Wagon Tracks. Wagon Tracks is the official publication of the Santa Fe Trail Association. And through a partnership with the University of New Mexico, the association has provided copies of Wagon Tracks to the university and they have digitized them. So if you are looking for an interesting read or want to learn more about the people and places along the trail, Wagon Tracks is for you. And we will make sure to provide you with a link in our links from this week's show. But I want to share the story of Samuel D. Raymond. And Samuel D. Raymond left Romeo, Michigan, my home state. He left Romeo, Michigan in 1859 and headed west and traveled along the Santa Fe Trail to the gold fields of Colorado. And from 1859 to about 1862, he was in the gold fields trying to strike it rich. Now, in 1862, as we all know, the American Civil War was going on. And at that time, he joined a Colorado unit and served in the United States Army. But he kept a journal, and his journal has been lovingly transcribed by Lloyd W. Gundy. And it was featured in a 1995 issue of Wagon Tracks. And I love the fact we get some fantastic insight from this young man as he's traveling on the trail. And we get to read about some very familiar Kansas places. So I actually want to go ahead and share. I'm going to read to you one of his entries that I found really fascinating about one of my favorite places. And I know it's one of yours, Council Grove. So, on Tuesday, April 26, 1859, Samuel Raymond writes, traveled to Council Grove, which is 13 miles from Bluff Creek, and encamped. Here is another beautiful stream of water belted by scrubby timber. Saw this day several large trains of wagons going to Kansas City to load with provisions for Pike's Peak. Saw at a distance what I supposed to be a black wolf. The roads today were quite hilly and stony and difficult to travel on. The wind blew very strong and filled my eyes with dust. And in western Kansas, don't we all know about blowing dust? He goes on to say, Indians came around our camp wishing for something to eat. Boys cleaned their guns and pistols in anticipation of trouble from Indians further west. This is quite a thriving little place with one large dry goods store, in it well stocked with all things necessary for a family. So I love the fact that Raymond is giving us a little bit of insight into what it was like. He talks us about the landscape. He talks about how difficult it was to travel, and he tells us about the people that he meets along the way. He's really a really deft writer. He observes so much while he's out on the trail. And I think the Journal of Samuel Raymond would be something you would all enjoy reading. And we'll make sure that we provide the link to this specific issue of Wagon Tracks so you can take a look for yourself. Also, in this issue, something else really fascinating. And what I love about Wagon Tracks is it features really interesting research done by people who live in communities along the trail. And I love Wagon Tracks. You get to read and see all the latest news that was going on with respect to commemorations along the trail, waymarking, events that were being held in communities. It's wonderful. But This is fantastic. If you are a genealogy fanatic like I am, in this particular issue of Wagon Tracks, there's a list. It's called New Mexico Students Travel the Trail, 1832 to 1880. And this is a list of names that have been compiled with biographical data of individuals who traveled on the Santa Fe Trail in and out from New Mexico to Missouri and back. And so you really learn about some interesting individuals. So if you know that you have family who traveled along the trail, if you have New Mexico connections or roots, you can take a look at this because all of these individuals would be traveling the trail at different times, making their way through Kansas on trading runs back and forth to Kansas City and Westport, and points further east in Missouri. So I really found this fascinating. For example, we have here Marco Cabeza de Baca. And he was born April 25th, 1857, the son of Francisco Tomas Baca and Gertrudis Lucero de Baca. And it tells that he married, it'll tell you who he married and the times that he traveled on the trail. So if you are looking for really interesting information to connect people to the trail, I highly recommend Wagon Tracks. We'll be right back with a wildlife segment.
200 years of stories take more than a year to share. The Santa Fe Trail Bicentennial continues through 2025. Join us on this epic journey of exploration on America's most historic road. Find our podcast each week on truckersradiousa.com. Find us on Facebook. Find us at santafetrail.org. The Santa Fe Trail lives on.
Welcome to the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in my hometown of Oakley, Kansas. We're the front door of Western Kansas, located on 3 main highways, I-70, US 83, and US 40. And all those roads lead to history, beautiful scenery, and adventure, no matter which direction you go. We now have an IHOP. That brand that you've trusted up and down the road in all your travels is staffed with local folks, real people, just like you and me, and we're waiting on you to join us. So for fun, adventure, fuel up, fuel your body, and let's have some fun.
We're going to dip into the Around Kansas vault, and Deb is going to share with us interesting facts about the snipe. Really, they exist. Take a look.
Our wildlife segments feature some pretty interesting birds and other animals, and I find this one very interesting, and I think you will too. The snipe has a rather mixed reputation, but when you look into the reality of this bird, it's a pretty interesting story. So let's take a look at the snipe.
Most of us have heard of or even perpetrated the practical joke of snipe hunting. That fool's errand of tricking the greenhorn into riding into the woods, making ridiculous calls, waiting in vain for the variously described fictitious beast to show up. But what if you really want to bag a snipe? What should you do? Well, first make sure your Kansas hunting license is in order. Wilson snipe, formerly known as common snipe, is a large shorebird, just shy of a foot tall and under 4 ounces. It is one of 2 shorebird species that can be hunted in Kansas. Like other shorebirds, this species prefers to forage on mudflats and in water less than 3 inches deep, in wetlands and along shorelines. Unlike most other shorebirds, common snipe frequently feed at vegetated sites. They use their 2 to 3 inch long bill to probe into the mud for insect larvae. and earthworms. Snipe nest in Canada in the northern tier of the U.S. states. They begin arriving in Kansas during the late summer and can remain throughout the winter. Cheyenne bottoms and other shallow marshes are the primary snipe hunting areas in Kansas. Snipe hunting is physically challenging because hunters wade or slog through often mucky areas to flush snipe. Just getting off a shot is difficult at times because it's hard to keep from falling down while swinging the gun in response to their erratic, fast flight. Many a shot is not taken because the hunter is off balance and doesn't want to fall in the mud. Snipe hunters need to be proficient in wetland bird identification to make sure they do not accidentally shoot similar-looking species that are protected. Yellowlegs, greater and lesser, and dowitchers, long-billed and short-billed, are the four species most similar in appearance and size to snipe. Color patterns, flight, and call are the best characteristics for distinguishing snipe from look-alike species. Snipe fly in a zigzag pattern and more powerfully than yellowlegs and dowitchers. Dowitchers and yellowlegs tend to fly in a straight line. Snipe tend to give a single note call when flushed, while dowitchers and yellowlegs typically give multiple note calls. So brush up on your snipe identification techniques and invite some friends to join you in a snipe hunt. Oh, and if you fry up that little beast, let us know if it really tastes like chicken.
I'm Seth Hayes, and welcome to my hometown, from then to now. Council Grove has a rich history, as deep as the prairie tallgrass. Spend the day visiting 25 historic sites, or explore the unique shops and restaurants, or mosey out of town along the Santa Fe Trail. You all visit my hometown, Council Grove, in the heart of the Flint Hills.
Okay, looks like it's time for our tour. Welcome to the Fort Wallace Museum. Here at the museum, you're going to find some really interesting stuff, like our replica stagecoach from the Butterfield Overland Dispatch. We've got facades from the fort buildings. We've got an 1870s flag. There's a plesiosaur that was discovered locally. We've got the Ray pump organ collection. We're a little bitty place with a great big story, and we'd love to have you.
Welcome back to Around Kansas. I'm Michelle Martin, your co-host. Today on our fun segment, I'm going to share an event with you that you can either watch as a spectator, or if you love pedal power, you can get involved in yourself. And it is none other than Bike Across Kansas, or BAK, as it's known affectionately to devotees of cycling. So Bike Across Kansas will take place this year, June 11th through the 18th. And literally, folks, they plot a new route each year that you can ride to go from east to west and traverse the beautiful landscape of Kansas. So you might see some beautiful scenery like this behind me. So Bike Across Kansas actually is an 8-day bicycle tour, and it promotes health and wellness through bicycling and the history and the beauty of Kansas. And if there's one thing Deb and I love, it's Kansas history, and it is the beautiful changing landscape in the state of Kansas. As we've been often telling you folks, we are more than a drive-through or fly-over state. And biking gives you the opportunity to get to know the state intimately. The Bike Across Kansas began in 1975 and has been held annually, with the exception of the year 2020, because we were dealing with the pandemic. That year, it was the first year of the pandemic, and we didn't have vaccines. And so that was a tough year. But wow, how they have come back, and come back strong. Bike Across Kansas is a family-friendly event. It is encouraged for all ages, anyone who is able to ride. And they do limit capacity each year in the event to 850 personnel plus support people. And participants are in a wide age range from 6 to 80 plus years of age. So that goes to show you that everyone can get out there and ride that bike. And this year, the route has been mapped, and wow, what a great route they're going to be traveling. I'm really thrilled for people because you're going to get to go through historic Lewisburg in eastern Kansas, into Williamsburg, Ottawa. You'll go through Lebo, Olpe, Cottonwood Falls. Now, that is going to take you through some amazing biking country. Hillsborough, Heston, Hutchinson, St. John, Kinsley, Spearville, and oh, you're going to get to ride your bike and get into and out of none other than Dodge City, Cimarron, and Garden City, Lakin, and Syracuse before you hit the state line. So, if you're looking for a way to be healthy, get out and enjoy the amazing Kansas scenery, learn its history, visit its wonderful communities, and get together and enjoy the fellowship of like minded folks who like to ride the bike, try out Bike Across Kansas. We will provide you with a link to their website. They have a fantastic frequently asked questions list that you'll be able to look at. I hope you've enjoyed today's show. We'll have Deb back with us next week for more adventures somewhere around Kansas. Bye bye, folks.